October 30th could mark a pivotal moment in the 1MDB saga, a scandal that sent shockwaves around the globe. Will former Prime Minister Najib Razak's prima facie case hold up? We're set to find out soon. If it does, what's next for Najib? How did one of the world's biggest money laundering scandals unfold? And after 5 years in court, what are the defining moments we just can't overlook? Can UMNO pull off a political maneuver to bring Bossku Najib home? Perhaps even score him a DNAA like Zahid? Let's dive into the details. Let's clear something up. A prima facie case isn't a conviction. It's basically the judge saying, okay, there's enough evidence here to move forward. But it's not a final ruling on guilt. If the prosecution cannot prove a prima facie case against Najib, the trial could stall, making it harder to prove his guilt. But if the judge rules there is a prima facie case, Najib will have to step up and personally defend himself in court. If his defense holds up, he could walk free. If not, he faces conviction, possibly prison time, fines, or both. And even then, Najib has options. He can appeal to higher courts, hoping to overturn the decision. But how did we get here? How did the 1MDB scandal unfold? And what are the key clashes between the prosecution and defense? Before we dive into those details, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. If you'd like to support Kinitv in bringing you more quality content, scan the QR code on your screen to donate. Alright, let's get into the key points of the 1MDB trial. Let's take a step back to 2009. That's when One Malaysia Development Berhad, better known as 1MDB, was created, just after Najib Razak became Prime Minister. He was also the Finance Minister at the time and chaired 1MDB's advisory board right up until 2016. Fast forward to 2015, the Wall Street Journal and Sarawak Report dropped a bombshell. $700 million from 1MDB had somehow ended up in Najib's personal bank accounts. Najib's response? He claimed it was a political donation from the Saudi royal family, insisting the money was eventually returned. But that wasn't the whole story. Evidence later showed that 42 million ringgit from the 1MDB subsidiary, SRC International, made its way into Najib's accounts. This led to his conviction and imprisonment in 2022, making him the first former Malaysian Prime Minister to be jailed. Now let's talk about 1MDB itself. The US Department of Justice uncovered that Malaysia was, in their words, under kleptocratic rule. They found that a staggering $4.5 billion had been funneled out of 1MDB into offshore accounts and shell companies, with a huge chunk tied to fugitive financer Joe Low. And what did Joe Low do with all that money? He spent lavishly, buying yachts, private jets, luxury properties, and priceless art. Oh, and remember The Wolf of Wall Street? Joe Low helped finance that film too. The Kuala Lumpur High Court has zeroed in on one big question. Was Najib Razak directly involved in the 1MDB money laundering scandal? Specifically, did he embezzle billions? After his fall in the 2018 election, Najib faced 25 charges, ranging from abusing his power to pocketing 2.27 billion ringgit to receiving and moving illegal funds. The trial kicked off in August 2019, with the late lead prosecutor, Gopal Sriram, making it clear Najib and Joe Low were like two sides of the same coin. The prosecution argued that they worked together, defrauding billions while trying to cover their tracks, even taking family vacations together. Over the course of the trial, the prosecution called 50 witnesses. One of the key players was former 1MDB legal counsel, Jasmine Loo. After 5 years in exile, Loo dropped a bombshell. She received 100 million ringgit from Joe Low and another $9 million in her Swiss account. But here's the kicker. Loo testified that Najib, as Prime Minister and Finance Minister, had complete control over 1MDB. Nothing happened without his approval. The defense team, though, isn't buying it. They argued that Najib had no clue about the illegal dealings at 1MDB. claiming the whole operation was masterminded by Jolo and 1MDB's management. In their closing argument, Najib's team called the prosecution's evidence hearsay, accusing them of relying on the words of deceased or fugitive individuals. Now the question is, can the prosecution's evidence stick, or will Najib's defense successfully distance him from the scandal? The decision is in the hands of Judge Colin Lawrence Sequeira, with a verdict expected on October 30th. Najib Razak's reputation is in ruins, but do you remember his meteoric rise in Malaysian politics? At just 23, Najib took over his father, Tun Razak's parliamentary seat after his passing in 1976, making him the youngest ever MP. By 25, he was a deputy minister. At 29, the youngest Menteri Besar of Pahang, and by 33, a full-fledged minister. Fast forward to 2009, following the political tsunami of 2008 and Abdullah Badawi's resignation, Najib, with Mahathir's blessing, became Malaysia's Prime Minister at the age of 58. But after a 9-year rule, the 2018 general election brought his downfall and the 1MDB scandal erupted. In the SRC case, Najib was convicted, sentenced to 12 years in prison, fined 210 million ringgit, and famously branded a national embarrassment by the Court of Appeal. But here's where it gets interesting. Just earlier this year, before stepping down, Sultan Abdullah, the then Yang di-Pertuan Agong, reduced Najib's prison sentence. He was allowed to serve only 6 years instead of 12, with his fine slashed to 50 million ringgit. And as if that wasn't enough, rumors swirled about Najib potentially serving his sentence under house arrest. DAP's Teng Chang Kim even sarcastically suggested Najib might spend his days singing karaoke in air-conditioned comfort with Rosma. However, in July, the Kuala Lumpur High Court dashed those hopes, ruling that the alleged appendix of the royal pardon was hearsay and lacked proof of any signed document from the Agong. But the plot thickens. Prime Minister Anwar's 2025 budget hinted at drafting a new law allowing certain convicts to serve their sentences at home. This raised red flags, with PKR's Hassan Karim questioning whether this law is tailored to benefit high-profile figures like Najib so he could return home early. And with UMNO President Ahmad Zahid walking free with a discharge not amounting to acquittal or DNAA, despite facing 47 charges, the big question remains, could Najib follow the same path? Despite Najib's corruption conviction dragging UMNO's image through the mud, leading to a dismal 26 seats in the 2022 general election, UMNO hasn't given up on freeing their former leader.
Perjuangan kita untuk membela Datuk Seri Najib Razak tidak akan pernah terhenti. Jika ada yang masih bertanyakan komitmen pendirian kita, parti tetap teguh untuk membela nasib Datuk Seri Najib Tun Abdul Razak. Kita tidak akan berhenti selagi nasib Bossku tidak dapat pembelaan, dan kita lakukan cara bil hikmah wa bil hasanah, insya-Allah.
Malu apa? Malu apa? Malu apa? Pemuda! 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 Takbir! Takbir! Takbir!
But let's face it, whether UMNO succeeds in rescuing Najib or not, someone's going to have to clean up the colossal mess left by 1MDB. The Malaysian government is still working to recover billions of misappropriated funds from countries like the US, UK, Singapore, and Switzerland. And who's footing the bill? Ordinary Malaysians, taxpayers. and investors. The 1MDB scandal didn't just expose the dark side of unchecked power, it also laid bare the cracks in the global financial system and the staggering cost of corruption. As for Najib, 1MDB isn't the only dark cloud looming over him. He's still battling money laundering charges linked to SRC and facing a 6.6 billion ringgit criminal breach of trust case involving the International Petroleum Investment Company, IPIC. So what's next for Najib? Should corrupt leaders face the full force of justice, or is there a path to redemption? Drop us your thoughts and don't forget to scan the QR code on your screen to support us in bringing you more insightful content. I'm Camelia nor Azlan. Thanks for watching and see you next time.